Deadly laughter echoed through the air as Jason ran for his life, his heart pounding at time with every step. He had to get away, but from what? What was chasing him? Was it the Maple Hill Slayer? That would explain the hysterical giggle echoing through the woods. Jason's flustered breath came in ragged gasps as he crashed through the underbrush, fern fronds and briars tearing at his clothes and slicing his skin. Twisting roots and heavy undergrowth slowed him at every step. Behind him, just out of sight among the trees, came another bone-chilling sound of maniacal laughter. This time it was closer, panicking. He didn't see a fallen log. Catching his foot on it, he sprawled face first onto the forest floor. Frantically, he glanced over his shoulder, only darkness between the gnarled trunks. He slowly got back to his feet, wiping the blood from his hands onto his jeans, eyes darting around the shadowy woods. The laughter had stopped. There was now an unnatural silence. Every snapping twig and rustling leaf amplified. He felt like he was being stalked. He slowly turned, his heart still pounding. A shadowy figure emerged from between the trees ahead. It seemed human in shape, with a slight hunch. He stumbled backward over the same fallen log, a scream catching in his throat as the shadowy figure lurched toward him. It was now close enough for him to see it clearly. Its skin seemed pale and shiny, almost metallic. As it moved into a thin ray of moonlight, he caught a splash of crimson over its distorted face and mouth, and dark liquid running down its face and neck. It stared at Jason with red, glowing, hungry eyes, seeming to thrive and feed on his fear. The thing threw back its head, producing an inhuman cackle as it did. It crept toward Jason on all fours, gnarled claws extending from its hands. Jason turned to get up and run, but the creature pounced, pinning him to the forest floor. It loomed over him, continuing that chilling laugh as its claws rose into the air. The smell of bacon and freshly brewed coffee woke Sam. As she opened her eyes, she was momentarily blinded by the rays of morning sun streaming through her bedroom window. As she sat on the edge of the bed, she wished she could get back under the covers and sleep all day. With a groan, she dragged herself out of bed and shuffled down the hall, the hardwood floors cold under her bare feet. Down in the kitchen, her dad was already sat at the heavy oak table, cup of coffee in hand, reading today's newspaper.
Morning, Dad.
Sam mumbled, dropping onto one of the cushioned chairs.
Morning, kiddo.
He glanced up over his glasses with a frown.
Rough night?
Sam brushed a strand of long brown hair from her face and nodded. She hadn't slept well as she'd been up late studying for her calculus test. She was anxious as it wasn't her favorite subject, thoughts of failure spinning around her head all night. Her mom swept into the room with a big, bright smile on her face.
There's nothing like a hearty breakfast to start the day off, right?
She tied a flowery apron around her waist and scooped a mound of fluffy scrambled eggs onto Sam's plate, placing it next to the crispy bacon. The smell made Sam's empty stomach grumble.
Tyler, breakfast!
Her mom called up the stairs as Sam doused her eggs in ketchup before taking a long drink of orange juice. It was ice cold and exactly what she needed. Heavy footsteps pounded down the stairs as Sam's 14-year-old brother bounded into the kitchen, messy blonde hair sticking up in every direction. He grabbed a piece of toast and made for the door, backpack slung haphazardly over one shoulder.
Gotta run. Meeting up with Dylan and Chris. See ya.
The front door slammed behind him. Sam glanced at the newspaper headline. Local teen still missing after 5 days? She recognized the photo of Jason Andrews from her AP biology class. They'd never been close, but had spoken on numerous occasions. He was a well-liked member of the school, always smiling and holding doors for classmates. What could have happened to him on that hike?
This is just awful. The park rangers are searching every trail. They found the rest of the hiking group, but there's no trace.
Her dad trailed off. A chill ran through Sam despite the kitchen being warmed by the sun. She shoved the unfinished eggs away. She was no longer hungry. As Sam headed to school, she felt a sense of unease about everything. The Maple Hill football team were dedicating Friday's upcoming game to Jason, hanging signs all over the halls. Rumors circulated about satanic cults, wild animal attacks, and even the Maple Hill Slayer. But the park rangers and police remained tight-lipped. The truth was out there, hidden among the hiking trails and trees. Something told Sam that learning it would irrevocably shatter the town's comfortably ordinary facade. An ice-cold wind whipped through the trees, sending leaves skittering across the ground and loosened Sam's hair from her ponytail. She shivered as the wind blew across the back of her neck.
This is where they said Jason went missing.
Amy, Raj, and Leah stood beside her with grim faces. They'd pored over Jason's social media for clues, searched the reports the police had released for any signs of inconsistency. The adults all claimed that every inch of the woods had been thoroughly searched. There was nowhere else to look and nothing more could be done. Sam knew they were missing something. Leah also shivered. It wasn't cold, but the gusts of wind were. This area of the forest was a wind trap.
I can feel it. The energy here. It's all wrong. Dark.
Raj shook his head.
Do you really think we'll find something the cops didn't this late at night?
We have to try.
Said Amy.
They think we're just kids. If we get proof, they'll have to listen.
But you've heard the rumors. They are saying it could be the Maple Hill Slayer.
Exactly. Rumors. The last sighting of the Slayer was around a year ago.
Dismissed Amy. Sam trod carefully along the trail as it was covered in slippery wet leaves, browning moss, and brittle twigs crunching underfoot. The musty scent of decay lingered in the air as she brushed aside low-hanging branches. She could feel the spongy forest floor depressing with each step, still damp from recent rains. Up ahead, the path curved out of sight, beyond the reach of their flashlights, reaching into the ominous darkness. Sam steadied her nerves and motioned for her friends to follow.
Are you okay?
Amy asked. Sam glanced back at her friends' pale faces etched with fear in the dim light. She steeled her nerves.
Let's keep going.
The path dipped, seemingly disappearing into the woods. Thick roots had grown out of the ground, and across the trail it felt like they were grabbing at Sam's feet like bony fingers. The path ahead was dark, the canopy of the trees blocking out the moonlight. The flashlight beam was swallowed up in darkness, only allowing them to see a few feet ahead. Anything could be lurking just out of sight. Leah gasped as she thought she saw something dart behind a tree. Raj steadied himself against a nearby tree on the edge of the trail, his breath causing a fog to appear around him.
Guys, I really don't like this. We shouldn't be here.
As they turned a corner, Sam saw something. As she ran to it, she could see it was a sleeve from a torn shirt. It had been caught on and wrapped around a branch. She untangled it with quivering fingers. It was a gray shirt, just like the shirt Jason wore in that Instagram photo. Although at first glance, it looked red, as it was covered in blood.
Oh God.
Breathed Amy.
He was here.
Sam clutched the torn fabric tighter, nails biting into her palm.
And we're going to find out what happened to him. Come on.
The group reluctantly followed her deeper into the woods. The wind picked up again, making the trees sway and groan. Sam had to blink back tears as the biting icy air stung her eyes. She tried to ignore the twisted shapes seeming to stalk them, as whenever they looked, there was nothing there, just eerie darkness. The group had traveled through the whole forest, coming out on the other side, as this is where the clues had led them. There, in front of them, an abandoned circus appeared through the mist. Where had it come from? There hadn't been a circus in Maple Hill for years. The big top was the first thing they saw, wind whistling through its skeletal structure, its tattered canvas undulating in the wind's grasp. Rust had claimed the tilt-a-whirl, the trick mirrors, and the main body of the carousel. The horses were covered in moss and vines that had grown around them. Sam swept her flashlight over the ruins, revealing a sea of abandoned popcorn boxes and trampled programs. The walls of the amusements were covered in time-ravaged posters of all the circus acts. Amy lingered by the edge of a nearby tent, peering in at the dusty piles of clothes and toys on the floor.
Amy, don't get separated.
Sam warned, her heartbeat quickening with every second that passed.
Sorry, this place is just so creepy, but kind of cool, don't you think?
Amy turned back with a faint smile. Sam exhaled in relief. Leah froze, clutching her pentagram necklace.
This place feels wrong. Evil. We shouldn't have come.
Raj looked at her reassuringly.
We just need some answers. We'll leave soon.
They ventured deeper into the ghostly ruins, weaving between stands topped with rusted animatronics and walls covered in peeling posters. Sam's stomach churned at an animatronic clown's faded face that looked as though it was leering at her. Amy paused. Her face formed into a frown.
Do you smell popcorn?
Sam shook her head as she could only smell the damp and decay. Amy entered the tent, drifting toward the back where the smell was coming from.
I definitely smell popcorn. And is that music?
Before Sam could react, Amy slipped through a slit in the canvas at the back of the tent, leading her back outside. She called over her shoulder.
I'll be right back. Amy, wait!
Sam rushed after her. But beyond the tear, there was only darkness.
Amy?
There was no response, only the sound of the creaking tent structure and the wind blowing through the ripped canvas. Sam turned to retrace her steps. A shrill, agonized scream cut through the silence, unmistakably Amy's voice. It lasted a few seconds before being abruptly silenced. Sam froze, her heart dramatically beating in her chest. The circus had seemingly claimed its first victim, and something still lurked just out of sight.
Amy!
Sam cried out, her voice breaking but was met only with silence. She rushed back to where she'd left Leah and Raj over by the ticket booth.
Amy has gone. She's disappeared.
Sam sobbed, holding her head in her trembling hands. Leah pulled her into a hug.
Oh no. We'll find her, I promise.
Raj scanned the dark horizon, his jaw clenched due to the tension.
She can't have gone far. We'll search every inch of this place.
Sam wiped her eyes and nodded. She refused to lose anyone else. They had to find Amy before it was too late. Sticking close together, Sam led Raj and Leah back toward the looming big top tent. Amy was here somewhere. They desperately hoped she was still alive. Sam panned her flashlight around the circus grounds, covering more of the ruins. This time she discovered a disturbing mural. It seemed to depict demons of some sort who had trapped children within the circus maze, making them continuously run through it over and over again. As they ventured further into the desolate ruins, Leah stopped. She peered toward a dark trailer.
Did you hear that?
She whispered.
I think something's in there.
Before Sam could react, Leah pulled away, disappearing behind the trailer. Sam rushed after her, flashlight bobbing erratically. She turned the corner to nothing but darkness. Raj stumbled into her from behind.
Where is she?
He panted. A blood-curdling scream split the silence. Sam's stomach dropped again. That sounded like Leah. They ran toward the front of the trailer as the scream had come from within. It was too late. The door drifted open, moonlight spilling onto Leah's lifeless eyes staring skyward. Raj recoiled and Sam trembled violently. This place had claimed another victim, and something was still prowling within the shadows.
We have to find Amy and get out of here.
Raj choked, tears streaming down his cheeks. Sam held his hand, pulse racing. Leah's vacant eyes seemed to follow them as they fled the trailer, its interior painted with occult symbols and satanic imagery. They stumbled through the circus's claustrophobic maze. Sam instantly thought back to the mural she saw earlier. Raj flinched at every snapped branch and skittering shadow, certain whatever evil claimed Leah was still stalking them. He halted abruptly.
Listen, music.
Sam shook her head. She could hear nothing but the wind.
It's faint, but I hear an organ. I think it's coming from the big top.
Be careful, Raj. Amy also heard music right before she disappeared.
He drifted toward the great tent before Sam could stop him. She trailed behind hesitantly. The haunting notes grew louder. As Raj disappeared into the big top, the music ceased. Sam froze, breaths shallow. Moments passed in agonizing silence. Moonlight filtered through holes in the big top's tattered canvas, casting beams of moonlight and strange shadows across the sand within the circus ring. Sam crept between the rotting rows of bleachers, The planks that made the seat were either splintered or sagging inward.
Raj?
She called, her voice echoing through the oppressive silence. She listened for his response over her own shallow breaths. Dread settled like a weight in her stomach. She approached a mound of filthy stuffed animals piled against the ring's edge, their glassy eyes tracking her every move. As she turned toward the curtained backstage area, a cry rang out from behind her. She whipped around in fear, her torch revealing only empty bleachers and shadows. As she entered through the curtain, her heart pounded. She was now moving quicker, weaving between all the abandoned props used by the various circus acts that performed here over the years. She felt a gust of wind hit her from above. It smelled like something had been dead for weeks. Sam gagged, eyes watering.
Raj, please.
She sobbed. She had to find it. As she ran further backstage, she heard a thud behind her. It sounded like something had fallen from somewhere above her. She stopped running. With fear in her heart, she turned around. There in front of her was Raj, laying splayed on the rotten wooden floor, neck twisted at an impossible angle, eyes bulging and lifeless. Tears began to spill down her cheeks faster. She collapsed to her knees beside his body. A crazed giggle overhead pierced the silence. Sam jerked her head upward to see where the laughter came from. Two glowing red eyes peered from the rafters. As she staggered to her feet, the thing dropped down behind her with a heavy thump. Slowly, Sam turned. She had begun to feel extremely nauseous. The clown's grin stretched impossibly wide, grease paint running down its face like blood. It cocked its head with an awful crack. Sam stumbled backward in terror, her pulse thundering in her ears. She'd read about that laugh. It was unmistakable. Was this the Maple Hill Slayer? Sam burst from the big top, the demonic clown's crazed laughter echoing behind her. She tore through the circus ruins, boots slipping on trash and debris. Glancing back, she glimpsed the clown crawling like a rabid animal, limbs twisting unnaturally. It scampered up the side of a trailer, glowing eyes fixed on her. It released a screech like scraping metal on metal before dropping back to the ground and barreling after her. Sam's lungs burned as she scrambled through the ghostly midway. The ride seemed to lurch to life, rusted cars revolving to block her path. The clown leapt onto the tilt-a-whirl, riding the squealing machine in pursuit as Sam ducked behind a concession stand. She crouched in the dirt, clamping her mouth closed against panicked whimpers. The spinning ride whirred past her hiding spot, the clown's crimson smile glowing in the darkness. It sprang onto the merry-go-round, perching atop a mold-covered horse and swiveling its head in her direction.
Come out and play, Sammy.
It rasped. Sam spotted a toppled gas can behind the stand, leaking clear fluid. Grabbing it with trembling hands, she stumbled into the open. The clown leapt from the ride, sensing its moment to strike had come. Sam hurled the canister with her last ounce of strength. It burst at the clown's feet, splashing it with gasoline. She held her lighter aloft, flame dancing.
Go to hell!
Sam roared, hurling the lighter into the puddle. Fire erupted with a whump, engulfing the clown. It released an unearthly wail as Sam turned and fled into the darkness. The night behind her glowed orange. The abandoned circus became the demon's inferno. The demonic clown was dead. The cursed circus was slowly being destroyed. But at too steep a price. Sam wandered aimlessly through the ghostly remains, the clicking carousel horses and calliope music, now an eternal echo in her mind. She stayed there until dawn, mourning all that was lost. But Sam knew she couldn't linger in this graveyard forever. Her friend's sacrifice deserved justice and meaning. Sam headed home, stopping at an old oak tree they used to spend time at growing up. She sat numbly as the first rays of dawn crept over the top of the forest. She gazed down at the makeshift grave she'd made under the tree, marked with mementos of the friends she'd led to their doom. Though the evil was vanquished, she couldn't erase the guilt and grief carved into her heart. The world around her stirred to life as morning light washed away the lurking shadows. Birdsong filled the air. Bees buzzed among wildflowers dancing in the breeze. Such ordinary beauty, so jarringly out of place. As the horizon blazed crimson, Sam turned for home. Though part of her died back in that cursed circus, life went on. She would carry the scars forever, but had emerged wiser, tempered by darkness, but not consumed by it. She took a final look back, then left the ghosts behind. The future awaited, and she would live it for them. Over the weeks that followed, Sam slowly picked up the pieces of her shattered life. She immersed herself in schoolwork, reconnected with estranged friends, and spent more time with family. Though she still woke some nights haunted by visions of that awful night, the pain gradually lessened to a dull ache. The police, aided by Sam's account, declared the abandoned circus site a hazardous waste area and erected a fence around the ruins. Wildflowers and vines slowly enveloped what remained of the Phantom Carnival rides. Sam found comfort in knowing nature was reclaiming that place, and its evils were buried in the past. The missing persons cases of Jason, Amy, Raj, and Leah remained unsolved, but Sam refused to let their deaths be in vain. She founded a peer counseling group to prevent anyone else from having to face darkness alone. Saving just one life would be purpose enough. On the anniversary of that night, Sam returned to place flowers by the oak tree, marking her friend's sacrifice. She smiled through tears, heart swelling with gratitude for having known them, however briefly. They taught her to truly live, unbound by fear, for there was always light, even in the deepest shadows. As the sun set, Sam turned away and walked steadily onward. The future called, a light with hope.